Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to tackle your questions that you have for the spirit guides today. But before I get to that, I do want to mention something that I find a little bit fishy, and that is yesterday morning. Now, today is Wednesday, the 30th. Yesterday morning, 5 cars that Biden's security detail rented. Now, apparently, I think they had a car for Biden that was not rented, but they rented 5 cars. Some of those were used for his Secret Service, and some were used for Biden's family. And they were all different kinds of cars: a Jeep, a Suburban, an Infiniti, an Explorer, different cars. 5 of those cars, all 5 of those cars, caught fire. Now, nobody is hurt. Biden had left. The cars were in the rental car parking lot, and it was 24 hours after Biden left. Okay, so I'm not saying anything about that, but I am saying, that cars these days do catch fire for no reason. So just because of our batteries and the way things are. And there was a recall on one of the cars for a problem that one of the stated issues could be that it could catch fire. And that rental car company did not take the car in to get it fixed for the recall. So we have an explanation. Okay, we have an explanation. And if you do a Google search, you'll find that this really does happen, that cars do catch on fire and then burn other cars. There's lots of videos out there that show this. But I'm telling you, I can't get over it. I actually did this whole video, including all your questions, yesterday. I spent a lot of time doing it yesterday, and I talked a lot about this problem with these cars. And yet my guides kind of kept bugging me to have a timeout and talk to them. So I put the video on ice. I didn't post it last night, even though it was literally one click. At one point, it was scheduled to be posted. But I really wanted to talk to my guides a little further and make sure that I wasn't just going off on a tangent, right? 60% of me is channeling, 40% is Susan. That still means 40% of Susan can influence the video with her own thoughts and desires. Now, I try to not let that happen. And that's why when I do a video, I have a time period where the guides can come back and communicate with me. And that's what happened here. So I chilled out. I said, okay, I'm not going to post this video. I'm now posting it now with this sort of addendum to it to tell you that there are some things that truly explain how this can happen. But I also want to tell you, energetically, there's something going on here. There just is. I can't get over that. I tried. I spent 24 hours or 12 hours trying to just say, okay, it's explained, right? I'm sorry, something fishy here. I can't get over that. It's interesting also that the major media did not pick this up. I mean, this happened 5 a.m. in the morning, roughly, East Coast time, yesterday, and no one heard about it until midday or later. One of my viewers, Patricia, thank you, Patricia, emailed me about it, and then I saw it. But honestly, it was being covered by Fox News, and it was being covered by a lot of right-wing media. And then it was covered by like Azerbaijan. It wasn't covered by anybody else. And then later in the evening, it was picked up by the Daily Beast. Still no word from Biden, right? Because I think Biden doesn't want to give any air to it. He doesn't even want, to him, he wants this to be he wants to deprive it of air. And for that reason, I don't want to give it a lot of air. I just want to tell you something is fishy about it. And I just want to say that when I went into the energy, what struck me when I did the video yesterday is that Secret Service was gobsmacked. They were shocked. our intel was shocked. You never want your intelligence people to be shocked. When I tune into them, that's not what I want to hear or feel. I want to feel, frankly, if I go into their energy, I want to be blocked myself. I don't want to be able to see how they're feeling. Number one. Number two, if I can see how they're feeling, then I expect them to project something that they want me to see. Steely, reserve, eagle eye, watching. I expect them to project something to all the psychics out there. And you better believe there's some, big, powerful psychics in other countries that are constantly remote viewing and trying to see in there. So when I get gobsmacked and surprised, that just doesn't lend a lot of confidence to me. But it also tells me that their intelligence pipeline chain broke down. I don't think this was an attempt on Biden. I do not think that. I do not think it was an attempt on anybody. I think you can take these conspiracies a little too far. Like, for instance, recently, Kamala Harris's security team ran over a curb and the vice president had to get out of the car and go to another car. But it turns out that everybody's been hitting that curb to the point where pedestrians, bike riders, and civilians have put orange cones up themselves to point out this curb is killing us, right? City, do something. So I'm not going to take it all that far, but I'm going to tell you this, that I do think this was a message. I do think this was a diversion. I do think that it was intentional. And I do think that it was meant to add fodder, fuel to the fire for these right-wing people. My viewer, Patricia, sent me a link that is a Donald Trump website that is like a chat kind of thing. And it's just insane, right? I mean, now the information is going around that he needed to get rid of evidence. And of course, Hunter Biden has something to do with it. So this feeds those people. It feeds them. It gives them fuel to go out and recruit, to go out and gin up more angst and more anger. And that's another reason why Biden is not talking about it, why he hasn't said anything about it. This is why I think the news media is kind of putting the kibosh on it, because when we talk about these people, and I don't feel bad talking about it to you because my people are pretty, thankfully, in a way, I'm in an echo chamber, right? I'm talking to people that believe what I believe. I mean, you guys take me to task all the time. So I mean, I know Democrats don't just follow blindly sheep over the cliff. We don't. We're like cats. We don't herd well. But I just want to say, I feel like I can say this to you, but I don't think the media is, I think it's a good call, because when we talk about Nick Fuentes meeting with Trump, and Fuentes is a punk, he's an anti-Semite and a fascist, and blog, fill in the blank, just as many as you can. We actually give him a platform. So there's a lot of talk about that. So I think that's why Biden's not covering this. I do think that they have to be more careful. They can't rent freaking cars. I'm sorry. I know you're going to Nantucket, and what else are you going to do? Right? I mean, when the president flies to another city, what do? Are they going to fly the Beast, which is his vehicle? I mean, they have to do something, right? So I think that look, wake up. This is a different world we're living in now. If you're going to rent a car for the president, then you're going to have to rent that car for a week longer than you need it. And you're going to have to park it in some secure place. I mean, you just have to. It's a new world. And they are using everything they can to create media cannon fodder or media fuel for these nut jobs. So now I also think that other entities are involved in this. I don't really want to go into that because, again, I don't want to give too much air to this. But let me just say that Biden's security team got a big surprise. They sort of got, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. That's how they feel. They're like stuttering. That this is, I'm telling you, they're literally like speechless, stuttering as to how this happened. It was not a recall. This was not a recall. This was staged. This was a problem that was staged. And it means that we have other problems because somebody got into that secure parking lot, right? It means a lot of things, right? There's a lot of things now that they get to think about and they get to figure out. But you know what? I would much rather them figure it out now with something that wasn't even pointed at him. Let's figure it out now. Let's use this opportunity to see who is on our team and who isn't, and exactly what happened here. Until we learn this, until we wake up that this is a new day and this is a new dawn, this is going to escalate, and this could be a real problem in the future. And I'm talking about publicity-wise, not necessarily an actual threat to the president, because that's a war that, that's going to trigger something that these people don't want to trigger. But if they can take pot shots, so to speak, and have those things fuel this internal flame that's happening within the United States, then that's very much worth it to them, right? So I'm telling you this because it's starting to leak out. I know you guys are going to have questions. I know you guys are going to ask me about it. That's what I have to say about it. If you have more questions that you would like to ask about it, please put it in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. But that's what I think is going on right now. They're telling me this is a developing story. This is a developing story. So I haven't said all I can say, but I really think that we need to be prudent about what we do say, because what you say can and will be used against you. They really will turn it around and create a false narrative. So that's why I think Biden is being quiet. And that's why I think the media is being quiet. They're actually, for once, trying to help the administration and work with the administration. So, and yesterday, I really saw that differently. And today, after talking to my guides, I see it, I think, in a better way. And that's why I'm redoing this part of the video. And now I'm going to try to answer your questions that you sent in. And this would be version part 2 of those questions. Okay, so our first question in part 2 is Anush Tara says, what do the guides have to say about Frisch's quick concession to Boebert? He could have at least waited until the recount was over. This is kind of how I feel about Beto too. So with Frisch, it's the same energy over and over again with the Democrats, with this wanting to take the high road so badly that sometimes we realize we're not taking the high road. We're actually just being stupid. I don't know what else to say. We absolutely should count every vote, and we should wait. Listen, if NBC wants to call it, great, but Frisch should have waited until it was very, 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 very clear that he was going to lose. But the Democrats don't want to look like the Republicans. The bottom line is they want to teach the Republicans. They want to lead by example. Hey, I lost this. I'm going to concede. I'm not going to be like you guys. I'm going to be better. But the guides told me some of these people dropped out and really could have won with a recount. Truly, some of the races that have already been decided, the guides have said that if we just would have waited until the final vote, the last vote was in, it more than likely some of those races would have triggered a recount and we could have won. Okay. So that's what's happening there. I don't know how else to describe it. We don't want to be like them. We don't want to be seen as election deniers. But in this way, the guides always say this, and I don't know how to describe it exactly, but these people and our Putin are beating us with our own freedom. They're beating us with our own apple pie, American flag, like do the right thing, right? Our freedom of speech is being used against us right now with all this propaganda that Russia's able to come in here and spew, right? And in this way, when our candidates throw in the towel before they need to because they want to be seen as being better than or taking the higher road, we're going to lose every time. It's not that we're taking the lower road. It's not that we're being anything like a Republican just to simply wait until in close races until it's very, very decided. We've got to get off our high horse of thinking that we're better than them. And the best thing that we can do is just say, I concede. Uncle. It's almost like this energy of my arms behind my back. Uncle. That's the energy of it, right? We've got to get over ourselves. We've got to. And I think we will because we have to. Thank you for your question. Oh, Robin E says, will there ever be a federal law requiring polling stations on reservations? What? The more you learn, the more dismayed one can be, right? There's not polling stations on reservations. Yes. It's so wrong. It's just so wrong. And I'm not saying they're going to vote Democrat. I don't know how they're going to vote. I'm just saying they should freaking get a vote. Yes, but they're telling me, yes, there's going to be some specific federal legislation aimed at stabilizing Native American people's rights. Okay. So there will be some federal legislation. I don't think it's going to be next year. It really might be 24, but it is in the works. So thank you for your question. Beth Jursic says, Beth is asking about Twitter. It's not, a lot of you guys are not on Twitter, but I will say that Beth is saying she feels it's important, even though it's not political regarding Twitter. Will it ever be what it was before, or will another platform come along to replace it? Listen, this is why Twitter is important to you if you're not on Twitter. Twitter was a place where you could go and literally talk to a journalist. So if you had a specific question like, hey, your article, you didn't cover this, or you left this out, or I want more information, you literally could do that. And Twitter really came into its own during the protest in Portland, during the Black Lives Matter protest. It was really a hub for people to communicate back and forth. And that's where I got involved with Twitter and where I learned a lot of what was really and truly happening during those protests. Also, some of these killings of these African-American people. Twitter was where you could go and talk to that community activist right in that city and find out what the real deal was, and not have to pay attention or read through some BS article on some mainstream news, right? I mean, if you know me, I like to go straight to the heart of the matter. I like to talk to the person on the ground, and then I like to make my mind up about what I think about what they're saying. But I really like to get as close to the source as possible. And that's why I work with my guides. It's one-on-one. There's a straight connection, right? So the fact that Twitter is under fire and is more than likely going to crash and burn is actually silencing the public. There's just no way around it. It is silencing the liberal public. It truly is. It's going to have repercussions in the next election. That's how important it is, to be honest with you. They have managed to kind of disintegrate a nexus of communication that liberals were using. Now, her question is, will there be something new? Yeah, of course. There's several new entities, post, Mastodon, tribal, whatever. I don't know. There's a bunch, but it's not. Twitter was organic in the sense that it came together through this sort of trial by fire, almost this sense of a phoenix rising from the burning fire of these protests. It became what it is because of that. And none of these new things are going to be born in that way. So it's very sad to me because it's going to decentralize is the word. It's going to decentralize Dems and liberals. And honestly, just people. I mean, look, if you wanted to ever talk to a professor in Yale or Harvard or Cornell, you can. It was a really cool way to be able to tap right into somebody and talk to them. It was just kind of leveled the playing field, right? And now what's happened on Twitter is that they've unleashed, Elon Musk has taken off all of the safeguards, and now all these scary, truly scary people are back on Twitter, and they are just ravenous and vicious, and they attack you. You literally cannot say one thing without being attacked by 20, 30, 50. Imagine on my YouTube channel, if every time I put a video out, 90% of the comments were calling me a fascist or a racist, or, I mean, this is the things they do, even though that's who they are. They put that on other people, right? So imagine if that was the case. That is the case now with Twitter. It's terrible. And it's going to affect, it's going to affect our ability to organize, and we're going to have to just figure that out, like pronto. So we'll see. I think we will figure it out, because I think we're going to have new protests, and we're going to have new things, and people are going to find a new way to connect with each other. This is a groundswell. This is organic, and you can't hold it down. Look at the countries. Look at China. All the protests in China right now. Nobody can believe that China is having all of these protests. The protest in Iran, the protest in Russia. It's always the people. You can't treat people the way they've treated us and expect us to take it. We're going to stand up and start saying, we want something different. So I do see some new things happening with that. And I hope it's sooner rather than later, but we'll see. Thank you for your question. Universal Earth Angel says, Florida Governor DeSantis, in many instances from the pictures, videos, etc., his eyes appear that there's pain or fear, and that he's about to cry. What does it really mean? What can we expect? That's kind of true, isn't it? He is, let me just say, the guides want to say that his eyes are very expressive. So even though his face is he's very stone-faced, right? He doesn't smile a lot. His face is pretty unreadable in some ways. His eyes are pretty expressive. He can't hide. He really can't hide his emotions. His eyes betray him. They're saying, when you see fear or you see that he's about to cry, it's not because he's having compassion for those people whom he's talking to or about. If he's talking about a hurricane or whatever, it's not, there's no compassion. I mean, sorry to say this, but when I go into his energy, I don't see or feel compassion there, except for himself. He's very self-aware. So when you see that he's in pain or wants to cry, it's because he feels that he's out of control. He wants to be in control. And he feels that the message he's delivering there is a little bit of compassion there. He does feel like he's lying. He does feel like he's having to be somebody he's not. I'm not saying he's a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that he feels very manipulated. And he knows what he's saying is wrong. He knows what he's saying is not going to help people. And I think sometimes it's even a bridge too far for him. That's what I'm getting. So that's a better picture of him than I would have thought. But that's what they're telling me. He's very manipulated, and sometimes he has to say things that are just, he just thinks they're crazy. He's like, this is crazy. You know, he doesn't want to be crazy. He actually wants to be seen as a smart, capable leader. That's what he wants to be seen as. But he's being manipulated by, you could fill in the blank, and he's having to say things that don't make him look smart, that don't make him look capable, and don't make him look like a leader. It makes him look crazy. And that pains him. That drives him crazy. He wants to win at this on his own assets, his own abilities, but he can't because he's owned. And that there's a real dichotomy in him, a real, contrast. So that's kind of fascinating. Thank you for that question. I feel, I'm trying to anyway, feel compassion for DeSantis. I just can't find any compassion. I'm sorry. I know that probably got me a demerit in the spirit world, but I'll make it up by not eating pie. All right. Janet Neal says that our current situation feels like 1937, meaning that things could get much worse, but that we still have a chance to avoid that outcome. Where does Mr. Murrow say we are in that cycle? And does he have a message for us to get off of the timeline? Great question. For you new viewers, I'm channeling this. 60% is not me, is my spirit guides. 40% is me. That helps me understand what they're trying to say and speak it to you. Mr. Edward R. Murrow, it was a celebrated journalist and chain smoker, and he's one of my spirit guides that has just popped in for the last couple of months. He was a very celebrated journalist during World War II, I think. The guides are showing me we are indeed on the same timeline. So if you want to think about a timeline as a freeway, our freeway says 1937. It says your energy matches 1937. Okay. However, there's a divergence. We don't stay on the energy of 1937. We diverge. And the guides have talked about this a lot, honestly, that the energy around us is one of anti-Semitism, or is one of racism, and is one of all these horrible, horrendous, unspeakable energies that were prevalent during that time frame of 1937 to 42 or 45 or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, yes, this is true. Astrologically, some of the same planets are in some of the same places that they were during that time, or they are coming into that place that they were during that time, meaning we're repeating a pattern. Okay, energetically repeating a pattern. But what I would say, and the guides have said, is that even though we're feeling and experiencing some of the same energy from that time, we have chosen a different timeline. Now, how do we know that? Well, the biggest representation of that energy is Ukraine, because Russia feels that Ukrainians are not human. They're lesser than. So that is very similar to that timeline. But yet you see all of Europe, a lot of Western Europe, the United States, Canada, Australia, Britain, standing firm with Ukraine. That's different. That's us taking a different timeline. If we stayed in the 1937 energy, we would allow Russia to keep on marching into Poland, right? But instead, we put up a bulwark. We said, nope, we're going to send you arms. We're going to send you goods, artillery, whatever you want. We're going to send it to you. So in this way, our timeline is diverging. We're not going to experience the same horrible timeline that happened then. It may not be perfect. It may not be even what we want it to be, but it's going to be better. And in this way, every time we get tested, we choose better. Maybe not best, but better. Okay. So that's why I think it's going to change. And that's what Mr. Murrow would say. And I'll just consult him again and say, Mr. Murrow would just say, this is our opportunity to learn from history. If we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. So that would be his, something about folly, a fool's folly, not listening to history, not watching history. And he says, he says, look, Susan's been talking about history, right? The guides have been talking about Caesar and Caligula and watch Shakespeare plays, right? The guides have been talking about history. And here Mr. Murrow is saying, so fool's folly to not pay attention to the history that went before you. Okay. That gave me chills. We're going to get off of that timeline. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. But we're getting off of it. Thank you for your question. Joanne Bass says, do we see Marsha Blackburn, Republican senator of Tennessee, ever being investigated? I heard yes. She's caught up. She's caught up in something. She's mixed up and caught up in something. She got involved in something and now her hands are like bound in it. In other words, she can't get free of it. It's almost like her hands are like roped into it. Like she's a goner. Love that. She's a goner. Okay. Thank you for your question, Joanne. Dana Garvin says, will the guides tell us what the final outcome of the Jan 6 report be? Will it be complete? Will it implicate Trump along with other congressional members who helped him? Yes, it will be complete. It will be complete within the scope of work that they set out to do. You always have to read what the guides don't say. You always have to pay attention to what they don't say. So that to me means that there's other cases, other investigations that are going to be coming forward that we're going to be knowing about that are going to be outside of that investigation, but mainly because, and this is where Garland has run afoul, at some point you just have to cut bait and fish. At some point you just have to do it. You know, you can prepare for something forever and never actually do the thing. So with Jan 6, they were very good about laser focusing right on the target, which was Trump. They didn't allow themselves to go off a mission creep, to go over here or go over there or whatever. They didn't allow that. They had a very narrow focus. They stayed focused and they closed the investigation, fully knowing that if they continued for 6 months, they would get more. This is a never-ending gift of treason and indictments and crime, okay? But at some point, you just got to say, okay, I've got to stop here and just deal with what I have. So there are some other things that will come forth. It's not because Jan 6 didn't do the job. It's because they did what they could with the time they had, the resources they had, and they're going to complete it and package it all up, put a little bow on it, put Donald Trump's name on it, along with his cell number. So, yes, it's going to implicate Trump. Absolutely. It's going to be damning is the word they're saying. It's going to be damning to Trump. And it is going to implicate other congressional members and also other people like, I guess, Roger Stone, people that don't have a congressional seat, you know, that might be quote unquote citizens. it's going to implicate them. They're going to give the DOJ a nice report full of evidence. And, I don't know why they're saying it like this. I mean, I guess, I don't know, but do you ever remember writing that report when you were in high school and you just tried to BS, you know what I mean? And you tried to use every word you could to get in this case, they're saying this report has no legalese in it. Every line is an indictment. It's literally dense with evidence. There's no whereby, house, there's none of that. It's literally dense with evidence. Okay. So it's going to be thick with evidence. And yeah, it's going to work. It's going to implicate him and all of that. And I want to say, because I think this is coming to the point I said in the very beginning, that Fani Willis is now saying that she is going to render some indictments, if not by the end of November, which we're at, then in December. Fani Willis. Now, if you're new here, the guides have always said you've got these 3 women, and another one of them also popped off with a new charge. So you've got Fani Willis in Georgia. You've got E. Jean Carroll, who's the woman that Trump allegedly raped way back when in an apartment store dressing room. And as luck would have it, serendipity or the spirit guides, size 14 shoes on the scale to even this stuff out, New York passed a new law that gives people 1 more year. So even if your case is outside of its time limit to be tried, you got a bonus year. It doesn't matter when the case was. If the case was 20 years ago, doesn't matter. You've got a bonus year. So now E. Jean Carroll's brought 2 at least cases against Trump. In the bonus year, she can now go back and charge him, even though the statute of limitations has run out. So that's the second woman. And the third woman is Tish James. So I want to tell you this because it seems like when I have these visions, I watch. And if I start seeing the vision coming true in the news, I know that timeline has potential. Okay? I'm telling you, this timeline has potential because now we have Fani Willis saying, yeah, I'm gonna do some indictments. Now, the vision I saw was these 3 women standing in a line, shoulder to shoulder. Trump is in front of them. And behind these 3 women, Garland walks up, reaches over them, grabs Trump by the collar, hops him out of there, and says, no, ladies, he's mine. So now that Fani Willis is moving on Trump and E. Jean Carroll is moving on Trump, I think we're going to start seeing faster action of Garland moving on Trump because there's something karmic. It's not this, there's something really specific about the energy that feels karmic. It feels like it is written, which to me means it's pre-decided. It feels karmic that Garland is supposed to make the first charge, not one of these 3 amazing ladies. So watch that space because it's starting to pop, it's starting to happen. And that's why 5 cars that Biden happened to be in or around blew up today because the pressure is on. Expect more shock and awe because they're going to try to divert your attention from, let's say, Trump having dinner with a very proud white supremacist and an anti-Semite and trying to decide which one he's going to use for his vice president. When have we been here, folks? Does anybody know? When have we been here before? So there's a lot of things the Republican Party want to create a diversion about. Okay. And we all know who the Republican Party's is, who their daddy is. Okay. Whew. All right. So hopefully that all made sense. I appreciate your question because that was very fascinating. I don't know if this isn't politics, but it's a question that you guys all have. I think a lot of you have. M. Turpel says that their father is a Trump supporter, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to you. In order to maintain my relationship with him, I've had to say we cannot talk about politics. He used to listen to Rush Limbaugh. He thinks his media sources are neutral. He watches Fox News. What can I do to influence him to come back to the center? He's 80 years old. He is married and lives a day's drive away. We converse over the phone every couple of weeks. Honey, there's nothing you can do. It's not your job to do it. I'm sorry to tell you that because I know it's heartbreaking. And I actually, if my dad was like that, I would be heartbroken. Truly, it would break my heart, honestly. But the guides will often talk unemotionally. Okay, so they're talking unemotionally. It's not your job. Your dad is not going to change his opinions very easily. Was your dad in World War II? There's something about a military, or his dad was in World War I. No, your dad wouldn't be in World War II, but I think his dad was. There's some connection. Your dad has a pride about the United States. Okay, he has a pride about this country, and he's going to believe what he's going to believe. He's been hoodwinked. It's terrible. What the guides would tell you to do, because obviously he's 80 years old. We don't know how much time he has left. We don't know how much time any of us have left. The guides would say to you, bring up, talk about happy times. Don't talk about politics. I know it hurts you. I know it makes you feel terrible and heartbroken, but you have to let it go. Maintain this beautiful relationship you have with your dad. Maintain that beautiful heart space by instead talking about something fun that you did when you both were much younger. Bring up funny stories. Allow him to relive the good times of his life. Allow you to relive the good times of your life. And that will strengthen your bond, your soul's bond, even more, which is really going to repair the rift that's happened in your heart. None of us are perfect. Your dad isn't perfect. He's been spammed. He's been hoodwinked. He's been mind controlled. But it's not killing him. It's not hurting him. He didn't send all his money to, a prince and, wherever. He might donate to Donald Trump, but it's not the same. Do you understand what I'm saying? The guides really care more about our heart connection. That's the most important thing here. So instead of feeling terrible, put that aside and really connect with the dad and the memories, the fun memories that you have of him, and share those with him and get him to talk about it. Rebuild your connection, rebuild the trust, rebuild the respect that you have between each other. And then if your dad changes his mind, he's going to be much more open to you and willing to talk to you about it, because it won't be so my way, your way. You will have reconnected that heart space. Okay. My heart goes out to you. Take really good care of yourself. Okay. Ron Brock says, do I see Ukraine making it through the pounding? Yeah, I do see it. Listen, we've said this too. It's a trail of tears all the way to Crimea. It's a trail of tears. It's horrendous. But I'm telling you that Ukrainians will crawl over glass on their belly with no legs or arms to do it. I'm just telling you, they're relentless. They're going to get their country back. This is important to them to the degree that they don't care what kind of pounding they take. And they are winning. They are really winning. Now, it's gotten complicated because Iran is now supporting Russia, and Russia wouldn't be doing as well if they didn't have those drones from Iran. So this is complicating things. But the United States is sending even more things, even more high-level artillery to Ukraine. Ukraine has our support. I think that Biden will go rogue rather than not do it. And that sounds like a very crazy statement, honestly, because it sounds like our president is going rogue. But when I say this, what I mean is that Biden will make an unfavorable decision to support Ukraine rather than not support Ukraine. So he's going rogue in that way. If the Republicans say stop sending them arms, but yet Biden can do it under his powers as president, he's going to do it anyway. Okay, he doesn't care. This man doesn't care anymore. He's going to do the right thing. And to him and to me, supporting Ukraine is the right thing. So I do see Ukraine making a huge advancement in December. And the guides have been saying that for months. So the energy seems very stable. That timeline seems very stable. I also see this war, what some people might say is the end of the war, but it's not the end of the war, but it's sort of seals the war up to a degree that it's all over, but the final, sweeping up the glass or whatever. I kind of see that in March, April. I mean, so really good news for Ukraine, really, really good news. And I have 3 videos on Ukraine. Go watch them. Go to my main channel, go to the playlist, or just go to search and hit Ukraine. You'll see everything the guide said has happened. Every single thing the guide said was going to happen has happened, including they're going to go after returning Crimea to Ukraine. All of that has happened. Now, I think it's happened because I do think this is karmic. I think Ukraine is trying to show the rest of the world to stand up to the bullies. We need to stand up to Trump. Britain stood up to Boris Johnson, right? Several countries have gotten rid of their dictators. This is the energy. Stand up to the bullies. And Ukraine led the way in that. And they're showing us, and frankly, they're protecting the rest of Europe. And all of Europe knows this. If Ukraine goes, Poland's next, the next country. And then we truly do have World War III. So I do think this is karmic, and I do think that they're going to win. So it's going to be at a very high price, but they're going to win. Thank you for your question. Marianne Johnson says, will the Republicans be able to hold back funds from the DOJ? No, I don't see that. They're going to try. They're going to say crazy things. They're going to make accusations. They're going to literally seem even crazier than they ever have, because now Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to have a bigger mouthpiece to promote her craziness. But no, they're not going to be able to withhold funds from the DOJ. I don't see that happening. Thank you for that question. Maxi Chacha says, what is going on with Rudy Giuliani? He's been awfully quiet lately. Well, that's because there's this thing that they say when they arrest you. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. So he's very aware that he needs to be quiet. He's very aware that Trump is digging his own, prison accommodations. He's digging his own grave to his prison accommodations. Giuliani is being quiet on advice of his attorney, and that is very smart of him. Plus, honestly, I think he's flipped. I think Giuliani's flipped on Trump. I mean, it's going to be quite surprising, is it not, when people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and all these people find out that everybody flipped on them and they didn't know it. This whole time they've been acting like they are King Kong hanging off of a building with the United States clutched in their hands, but it turns out they're not. They don't have jack, nothing. Okay. It's all been a game, and they're the ones that have been played. So trust me, it's going to be a great day. I'm going to be absolutely thrilled when all that goes down, and it is going to go down. Maybe we don't get everybody. Maybe we don't put everybody in jail. And I'm sure some of you will say that justice was not served, and maybe I will agree with you, but enough justice will be served that it will change the landscape of American politics. So you can just put that in your pipe and smoke it. Enough justice will be changed, will be done that will change the landscape of American politics. That's a big statement, is it not? Let's see. NH Mountain Dancer says, how is McCarthy going to survive the next 2 years if he is there for 2 years, right? So this is the same thing the guides were just saying, is that with people like Giuliani and Meadows is coming to mind that are going to flip, and Pence that are going to flip, you're either flipping or going to prison. Your choice. What do you want? What's your choice, right? So these people that really know the deal are flipping, and they're trying to work out a better deal for themselves. So McCarthy is not smart enough to stay out of trouble. I don't know what that means. It means that he wants the power so much that he's going to make a mistake. He could make a criminal mistake, allegedly, for entertainment purposes only. So he is blinded by the power that he seeks. And he really could make a big mistake. And if he does, it's not going to go well for him, because Jack the Reaper Smith holds no prisoners. He doesn't hold any prisoners. I don't think he's going to be there for 2 years, is what they're telling me. He's not going to be there for 2 years. So that's good news, right? That's really, really good news. I don't know. Do you guys remember when we were kids and there was that round thing that you rode at the park? It was metal, and you would run alongside to get it going really fast, and you would hold on to the handle and you would spin around and spin around, right? And then hopefully you would sit down and get dizzy and not throw up. But sometimes you might get flung off of it, right? This is what I see. I see McCarthy going round and round on that thing, trying to get control of it, and then just getting flung off. But I also see lots of Republicans getting flung off. Like, they tried to tame this beast, and instead they just got flung off. So that's pretty interesting. Thank you for your question. Leslie Osgood says, a question about Moore v. Harper. The great Mark Elias, who's an attorney who, again, on Twitter, you can talk to these people who are really amazing people, that you don't have to read an article that's been dumbed down by some editor in Newsweek or in CNN. You get Mark Elias's actual opinion. It's brilliant, and it's killing me that it's going away. I mean, I'm not sure that it's going away, but it's under attack like nothing I've ever seen. The great Mark Elias discussed this in the spring. It is to my understanding that if SCOTUS rules in favor of this, it will give the state's legislative power over the electoral votes in the presidential election. So if, say, Biden wins a particular state and they want the other person, they can overrule the state's election if they have the votes. This keeps me up at night. Well, this is why we were also relieved when so many of those election deniers lost the Secretary of State races, because the Secretary of State is the one that certifies the election. So if those people had gotten into these states, game over. I mean, truly game over for democracy. We would have to solve this another way, and it would probably involve a lot of civil unrest. Okay. But those races all went to people that will uphold the Constitution. Now, there are still some election deniers that got into state offices that can affect the vote. It's not going to work. The bottom line is that this isn't going to happen. So again, that was a timeline that we were on. We were on that timeline. And then we exited the timeline. By winning those offices, we exited that timeline. It doesn't mean we're not going to be on another timeline where we have some challenges, but it means that particular timeline, which was probably the most challenging of all the timelines for voting, we got off of that timeline. We dodged a bullet. Layla 22 says, will Warnock Raphael Warnock be sworn in as senator for 2023? I get yes. I feel like Warnock has a 95% chance of being sworn in. 95%, 5%, because this is a crazy effed up place that we live in. That's why. But yes, 95% chance that he will be sworn in. That knocks out Cinema or Manchin. That one of those votes, we're going to be able to knock them out. And now people are going to have to play ball with us. We're really going to get judges. We're going to get lots and lots of judges appointed. I think we're over 200 judges need to be appointed. That's how many vacancies there are. So it's going to be really good for the Democrats. I mean, really good. Now, of course, whenever we get a little power, we tend to give it away. This is amazing. And Pamela Kasanovich says, what do the guides have to say about Val Deming's future? She's got a great future. I know she didn't win, but she's got a really bright future. I feel like she's going to DC. I feel like she's going to be going into the Biden administration. And I think that she's going to really stand out there. I think that she's going to be very respected. And I mean, really a standout, like, wow, okay, she's going to bring things up a notch. Whatever position she takes, she's going to bring it up a notch. Her level of professionalism, her level of intelligence, her level of dedication. She's just brilliant, right? So yes, her future is star-studded, is what they're saying. And honestly, it's a much better place for her to be on the national stage. It's perhaps, and it's the same thing with Beto, right, in Texas. These people, and Stacey Abrams, right? I mean, they fought hard for their states and they dearly love their states, but it might be time to pack your bag and move to DC and take a role in a bigger way and a bigger stage. I truly think that Biden is making room for them maybe in the spring of next year. And with that, I'm going to have to close out this video. I didn't get to all of your questions, and I'm so sorry that I didn't. There were over 100 questions, as there usually are, and I do try to get to as many of them as I can. So listen, I really appreciate you guys. If you're watched all the way to this bitter end of this video, thank you so much. You have my heart. Thank you so much. I hope it's helpful. I do these videos in the hopes of helping you, of giving you a peek around the corner of the energy, and also to help you sort of know what to expect. I think sometimes if we have some general idea of what to expect, we can feel better about things, right? And that's why I do these videos. So thank you again for joining me. Take really, really good care of yourself. Guys, I'm telling you, it is about to get wild, really and truly wild. Shock and awe is all I can tell you. So please double down on the self-care, whatever that means for you. And self-care can be free, right? Watch funny videos, listen to happy music, take a walk in a park. Remind yourself of 3 things that you didn't know you were grateful for, right? There's lots of ways to really take care of yourself. And I'm telling you guys, the energy is brutal right now. Please, please, please take good care of yourself, okay? Give yourself many handfuls of gold stars and chocolate Cinnabons. Oh, wow. The guides never tell me to have a chocolate Cinnabon. Is there a chocolate Cinnabon? That would be a deadly thing for me. I don't even allow myself to eat Cinnabons. Literally, they're not, I don't allow them. I don't allow Oreo cookies don't come in the house. I mean, there's a lot of things that are like off limits for me. But a chocolate Cinnabon is like a very exotic thing that I might have to think about. Anyway, thanks, guys. You take really good care of yourselves. We'll talk soon right here on this channel. For entertainment purposes only.